Hi there, this is Phil with Phil Effects. Got another tutorial for today. What we're going to cover today is creating a simple rig for a character in After Effects. And what I mean by simple rig, it really is just the basics. We're not going to cover all of the things you need to do for lip syncing and multiple eye positions and eyelashes and things like that, where you do a character substitution or use one of the other methods. So this is just basically drawing a character, in this case in Photoshop, bringing it into After Effects and getting it rigged up and doing a real quick basic animation with it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. What we have here, if you look on my desktop, we've got our standard Art 184 project folder. And so I have my project, and inside there I have an After Effects file, and I have my character here that is a PSD, and it's in my stills folder. So if we open up the character in Photoshop, we look at it and we see we've got a character here that's I'm borrowing this from one of my students, rather cute character, and given that we're close to Halloween, it's a rather apropos diagram. And she's drawn up with basically in a cutout method where all of the different pieces can be taken and moved, and they're apart, and so we can take and bring this into After Effects with each piece on a separate layer. So let's go ahead and do that. And if I have After Effects, quick note, by the way, you see After Effects has these blue outlines. I've just recently upgraded, so this is the latest and greatest After Effects 2014.1, and so this has some of the newer features. We won't be covering those, but just so you know, that's why you're seeing the blue outline. So let's open up this project, and if we go to my desktop, my AE project, we open this up, and we have a composition, and at the moment this is just blank. And so this has been set up for the project compositions that we want to do in our class. So we're the size of the comp is 720 by 405, and we need to import that Photoshop file. So I'm just going to double click here in the project folder, go into stills, get this character PSD, and the way that you want to do import is we want to bring that in as a composition and retain the layer sizes. It's important you do that, because if you don't, each one of these objects, instead of like her foot, instead of the foot, the size of the layer being just the size of the foot, the size of the layer that the foot is on is going to be the entire size here of 1200 by 1200, which is what the whole picture is. So you want to do this retain layer sizes. So we open this up, and Photoshop prompts us and says, do we want to flatten everything, merge all the layers, or keep editable layer styles? So we, like I just said, we want to keep this as editable layers. So we'll do that, say OK, and it brings the comp in. And here's her character, and here are all of the different layers that make up her character. So if we double click on this, here's her character, and we can see that. It's a little tough to see because at the moment the comp's background is black. We can change that real quick if I right click on that and go to composition settings, and instead of having a black background color for the comp, I'm going to turn that on and make this white, so it'll make her a lot easier to see. So we do that, and now we have a white background, and the different pieces are much easier to make out and much easier to see. So we've brought her in, and we've got all of the different components, and one of the first things we need to do is if let's zoom up here on her arms. If we look at her arms, and let's take the right upper arm, and the first thing you want to notice is that the origin for her, or the anchor point, is centered in the center of her arm. And that's really not where you want that, because this character is going to rotate around that anchor point. So if we did a rotation Right now, rotations would be right around the center of her arm, which is not what you want. So one of the very first tasks you want to do is you want to go in and we want to move these anchor points to the place where they need to be. And the easiest way to do that is with the pan behind tool. And that's up here. You can either hit Y on your keyboard or hit the pan behind tool. And that allows me to grab this anchor point, and now I can move it to a location that makes sense. And for her upper arm, I'm going to put that right about there. And if we go to the lower arm, same kind of thing. I want to put that right about there. Let's go over here, and we get her left upper arm. We want to move that to about right there, and get the left lower arm, same kind of thing. We want to put that right around there. Let's see, we have her hair. Now her hair isn't going to rotate, but it might translate. So you might want to take and put it, say, maybe in the center of her head. Let's see, the red cheeks. Right now she has both the left and right side set underneath the eyes, so actually leaving that centered is probably right where we want it. Going to the lips, same kind of thing. That's pretty much centered on the lips, that's fine. The nose, centered on the nose. Let's see. We have the right pupil in the center. That's actually where we want it. We got the right eye is in the center of the eye. That also is where we want it. Left pupil, left eye is in the center. The head. Now the head, her head is going to rotate again around that anchor point, and if we left it in the center, that's going to look kind of crazy. Let's see. I went and grabbed that. So here, yes. So the head, you definitely don't want that rotating around the center. So what we want to do with that is, let's get our pan behind tool and move that down here around the base of the neck. And now we're going to get to the legs. So we have a right shin. Now the feet, we're going to do a little bit different. You might think that the way you want to organize the legs is that you would start, and the very top of the tree for the legs would be the upper shin, the upper thigh rather, then the shin, and then the feet. So on the left side we would have the left thigh, and then we would have the left shin, and then we would have in her case we have the feet and the shins together, so we don't have the feet separate. But if we had a foot, then you would have the left foot. Turns out that actually is a little backwards. What you really want to do is you want to have the foot be the top of the tree. And the reason for that is when you're animating, the first thing you want to do is, I'm going to go in here and go back so I can place this. If we were to animate this character, and I was going to make this character be walking, the first thing I'd want to do is I'd want to place this foot wherever the next step was, okay? So I'd take it and I'd place the foot. Say there was a rock right here. I want to place that foot on that rock. And then really what I want to do after that is then take and rotate this so the angle is correct. And then the next thing I'd want to do is then take this left thigh and I'd want to rotate that. At the moment the rotation is wrong, but I'd want to rotate that so it met with the left foot. So that's really how you want to do things. You want to start with the foot and then you want to move the leg back to the body. Well, when you do that, then the correct place for the anchor point is not the top of the shin. It's really, in this case, if there was a foot here, it would be the ankle. And then the anchor point for the foot would be out here for the toes. Since we have the shin and the foot together, I'm just going to go ahead and put the anchor point right here at the end. And if we get to the thigh, I want the anchor point for the thigh to be right down here at close to where the knee is. Alright? And so if we have the right thigh, I want to do the same thing for that. I want to put the anchor point there. And for the right shin, we want to take this down here and put that at the bottom of the feet. Okay? So now we have our character. Nope. Now I have my character pretty much set up. Let me see, I think there's one more thing I need to do, and that's the torso. Right, so the torso, where you want the torso, the rotation for the torso, you really want that right here where the hips are, at the base of the hips, because that's where the rotation for a body really is around, is right at the base of those hips. So let's see, I think we have, yep, that looks like we got everything pretty much covered for that. So then the next thing we want to do is we want to do parenting. Alright, and so parenting is where you go in and you, if we wanted to animate this arm, let's say, the way that I'd want to do this is I'd take the right arm and I'd want to go in and I'd want to rotate that. So if I went and rotate the right arm, I really want the lower arm to go with that. If I don't, I have to go back in and I have to, if I brought the upper arm up, now I'd have to go in and I'd have to grab this lower arm and I'd have to, I'd have to take and move that, and then I'd have to go in and rotate that. And so I'd have multiple animations that I would need to do to get things lined up. Makes it very, very complicated. Well, it turns out the much easier way to do that is to go in and use parenting. And so the way that we parent is we go right over here, and so I want the lower arm to be parented to the upper arm. So when the upper arm moves, the lower arm moves with it. There's two quick ways to do that. One is I could just grab this pickwick here, this little curly cue, that's what's called a pickwick, take it and drag it and drop it right on the upper arm, and boom. Now you see right here under this parent column, if I pop this up, that we have the right lower arm is parented to the right upper arm. See that dot right there? So what that means, if I grab the right upper arm and now I do a rotation on it, lo and behold, the lower arm goes with it. That's exactly what we want to do. So movements on the upper arm causes a movement on the lower arm. Now all I need to do is animate one thing. I don't need to animate two. Makes life a whole lot easier. So we would go in and let's do that on the left side. So the left lower arm. Instead of using the pickwick, this time let's go in here and say we want to parent that to the left upper arm. And I do that, and now I select my left upper arm. I select rotate, and lo and behold, now those work correctly. So we do all of this. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pause real quick and I'm going to put the parenting in for this whole character, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about nulls. Okay, I'm back, and we've got everything parented up. We've got the upper arms, the lower and the upper arms are parented, and note that the upper arms are now parented to the torso, and we have everything on her face, her hair, cheeks, lips, nose, and everything else. They're all parented to the head. Alright, and the head is parented to the torso. If I went in and I grabbed that torso and I now move it, you can see everything in her body goes with that. That's exactly what we want. Notice that the legs, though, I don't have them parented and going with that. Well, there's a reason for that. We can do this real quick. Let me go in and let me remember the shins are the top part. So this bottom part is the top of the tree for the legs. So if I take the right shin, and let's go ahead and we'll parent that to the torso. That kind of goes off the screen here. And I'll take the left shin and I'll parent that to the torso. And now if I grab the torso and we move it, okay, all the legs and everything goes with it. But here's the problem with parenting those legs to the torso. Let's say we want our character to bend over and pick a dollar bill up off the ground. So I grab and I want to do a rotation on my character, and lo and behold, guess what? Her legs swing up in the air and she floats and hovers above the ground, which is not what you want your character doing. That's the wrong kind of behavior. But we want to be able to move our character and move our character on the stage and have the legs and the torso and everything go with it. So how do we do that? Turns out there's an easy way to do that. What we do is we go into Layer, New, and we create what's called a null object. And at the moment it actually placed my null object in the wrong place. I'm going to take that and move that up. I want to put that at the top. But a null object is like the name says. It is a non-printing object. See this? Here's the object. You can see these red highlights. And if I zoom in, so you can see a red bounding box, and the red dot here, that's the origin. And that is our null object. And it doesn't print, but it allows us to use it as something to parent other things to, which is exactly how we're going to do that. So I want to take this null object and I want to put its origin right there in about the center. The anchor point, rather, for the null object is right there. Okay, so we have the anchor point for the null right at the bottom. That's where we want it. And now what I want to do is take the torso and I want to parent the torso to that null. Now if I go in and I take this null and I want to move this null in position, so I can just go in and I can grab the null and move it in its position. Everything goes with it. Alright, now I still have the one problem that at the moment I have the legs parented to the torso, remember? So if I grab the torso and we do a rotation and we rotate it, okay, everything gets pretty, in fact it gets really goofy now. Okay, so we don't want to do that. But if I take the shins, the left and right shin, and I take these and I parent those to the null, take the left shin and the right shin and I parent those to the null. Now I can take the torso and we can go in, and if I need to do a rotation, I can rotate my character, and that rotates because it's parented to the null. And I can take, if I take and the legs don't move, right? Notice the legs didn't rotate. And if I go in then and I take the null and I do a movement on that, excuse me, it's not the movement of the null. If I grab the null itself and I move the null, okay, the legs and everything goes with it. So I can move everything in the character by moving the null, but now I have independent control over the torso because the torso is separate and it is away from the null. So hopefully that makes sense. Like I said, this is just a basic rigging. If we wanted to then go in and do some simple animation, let's go in and we can move her arms real quick. So I can go in, and if I take and hit P so I can get position and hit Shift R for rotation on here, I can go in and let's keyframe both of those, and we can go out and say just a little bit in time, and I can then go in and let me zoom this up just a little bit. And we can take her arm and rotate that up and do a rotation, and then come back out and do another rotation back down. So then if I went in and I set this here and we wanted to see what that looks like, you can see her arm going up and then we can see her arm coming back down, and notice everything goes together with it. So that's how you do an animation. You do an animation by going in and you grab the particular sections that you want to move. In this case, we wanted to move her right upper arm, and you set a keyframe, and we did that with rotation, and you can see the animation, and by rotating the upper arm we get the rotation on both the upper and lower arms. So that's basically our lesson. This has been Phil with Phil Effects. I hope you have a good day and a happy Halloween. Catch everybody later. Bye.